Hello, and welcome to Wednesday. You've already been doing Wednesday, but welcome to the Unboring Wedding Show live on this beautiful Wednesday. Beautiful where I am. I'm hearing it is scorching from Sabrina, where she is, and I can't even imagine 36.5 degrees Celsius today. I'm suffocating just thinking about it. It is a gorgeous, I want to say 20-ish degrees outside. The dandelions are springing up all over my lawn, which, hey, beautiful sign of spring. Bees everywhere. Had to prune the plum tree. So we are in it. We are in spring here fully in New Brunswick, Canada. And I am thrilled to be connecting with you today live. Please say hello where you are joining us from. Scott says hello. Sabrina won today. She tagged the wall first. So hello, Sabrina. Glad you're here. Scott was next. Hello, Scott. Good to see you here. Then we have Jerry chiming in. Good morning. Warm and just a few clouds in Electric City, Washington. And Paul is here from rainy Trumbull, Connecticut. Oh, man, rain in Connecticut. That means it's coming our way. And I was looking at the weather forecasts, and just like last weekend, we're going to have a beautiful week and rain all weekend. Beautiful week and rain all weekend. And for those of us who have weddings, rain complicates things, right? But just make sure your couple has a wedding plan B. Looking forward to saying hello to everybody in the chat as we continue on here live. If you would like to say hello in the chat, but you can't, for some reason, don't see a window where you can do that, please log into Google, log into YouTube, use your Google account, and then you can chat away with us, chat away with the amazing people on the chat. I love seeing officiants and celebrants all over the world. If you have not officiated before, please say hello. Today is one of those topics that is not aimed exactly at newcomers or first timers, the way sometimes more of our processional, I was going to say, processional things or ceremony nitty gritty is. But I want to talk today about a question that I get asked a lot. Mark, should I join an officiant company? Mark, why haven't you started an officiant company? Mark, what are the pros and cons of starting an officiant company? And so, I'm excited to unpack that with you. It can be a spicy meatball, but more on that in a couple minutes as we get into it. But I just want to say hello to Patrick from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Good to see you here. Judith is here. Good afternoon from Toronto. What if the company, getting right into the questions, which I love, Judith, thank you. We may have to put a pin in this, but we'll see. What if the company you're with gives you leads and also don't mind you getting your own business, even if they take a cut, but offers flexibility? I am really glad you mentioned that. That's a great segue into our topic. Not that I'm going to segue right in yet, but that is, so Judith is obviously thinking about considerations on this. Like I say, I expect many of you who join today to be a part of an officiating company or wondering if you should, deciding that heck no, it's not for you. Some of you maybe own and run officiant companies. So I am sensitive and conscious to the many kinds of people who are joining us, who are out there, wearing all those different roles when it comes to a wedding officiant company. And of course, I'm going to get more into what the heck that is in a moment. Karen, good to see you. Is it Friday yet? You're saying that, right? Because you're so exciting to get to weddings this weekend. You're so excited. You just want to get there. Monday to Friday, I don't know. I don't know what the work situation is, but can we get to weddings yet? Listening as I drive from rainy Long Island, New York. Oh, no, it's raining in Connecticut. It's raining in New York. That means I know we're going to see that 2 days from now. Good to see you, Katha Maranatha. Roger is here from English Bay. Good to see you. Tamara from Loves Park, Illinois. Jim, nice to see you. Fort Worth, Texas, 101 today. Man, you are in the same boat as Sabrina, just cooking, but I'm so glad you're here, Jim, and it was good to go back and forth with you this week in email. Ina Weddings, hello from Playa del Carmen, 31 at 11 a.m. Well, I suppose if you're near the playa, that is ideal. But those of you who are inland in Texas might be wishing for a playa right now. Cantor Mark is in the house from SoCal. Beautiful day there as well. And hello, Joe from Orlando. Good to see. Oh no, not Joe. Leo, Loey. It's Leo. It's the rookie. I know it's Leo. Leo, was that a trick? Good to see you here, Leo from Orlando. I know you're all crushing it. So, what is a wedding officiant company? Well, first I'll define it, and then I'll talk about how I come at the topic. A wedding officiant company. You want to think about it almost like a law firm. That is, you have somebody practicing law, a lawyer, and then they decide, man, I have a lot of cases. I should bring on a partner or, someone to split the load with. And then they do that. And then they think for a little while later, we should bring in, associates. We should have lawyers just work for our company. So we become an LLC or corporation, whatever works. Again, I'm not going to get into the legal weeds of this. We're going to talk about considerations of joining, not joining, running, or not running one. But then essentially you have associates come on board who work for the law firm. The law firm gives them cases, gives them clients. That means clients come to the law firm. They call up such and sons and daughters associates, whatever it is, and they say, we need a lawyer. And the company, the law firm, assigns cases and clients to the lawyers who work for them. My wife is a trained marriage and family therapist. Similar situation where after she graduated from her clinical counseling degree, she went out on her own. That was difficult. Running your own business is very difficult. So this is part of the consideration. Then she tried working for a counseling company. These companies are typically come with a lot of challenges and there's a lot of similarities between, for example, a lot more similarities between kind of running a counseling company than there is to a law firm. Because a law firm, you can kind of move up and you can become partner. And anybody sees Suits, there's kind of a feeling about, ladders. Whereas in a lot of officiating company, there's no ladder. It is more like becoming an employee, being sent clients, and then practicing your skills with the client. And so that is something to consider. I want to start today, again, not stepping on anyone's toes. I want to be fully transparent about how I come to the topic and why. So there's going to be opinions on this the same way there are opinions on wedding rehearsals, and I like that about our community. I really like that there is healthy, I don't even want to say debate. What I really like is the way that we are able to move within the officiant world and the officiant company, community, doing what's best for us. So that's going to be my huge caveat here. Is what is my aim today? It's not just to tell anecdotes or, I don't know, air my opinion. It is to help you think through doing what is best for you. I was recently on the phone with somebody who wanted to ask me about starting an officiant company and what I thought about it. And Mark, why haven't you started one? And so on the phone there, I had a very specific angle. And I want to start the conversation today with you because, of course, today is joining or running an officiant company. What are the pros? What are the cons? So again, as I think about this and talk about this over the next 45 minutes, who knows, and take your questions. And I love how Judith started the conversation by saying, hey, what if the company is very flexible? What if this, what if that? So there's going to be loads of what ifs, a constellation worth. Hey, maybe we can explore a lot of them, but I do love your input there in the chat. But I'm coming at it because I, like you, I have done what is best for me, and not just what is best in the sense of what's going to make me the most money, but what aligns most with my wiring and my values. And I will go into more of that. But a lot of our opinions are shaped by our experiences, right? And so this is where my experiences early on as a wedding officiant with a great wedding officiant company run by someone who's become a friend of mine, that informed and continues to inform, hopefully, my generosity around the topic of wedding officiant companies. Okay, so gonna get into that, gonna maybe help you think it through if you haven't. And like I said, that's the purpose today, is helping you do what's right for you, but also encouraging you to follow not just what makes you the best amount of money for your circumstance, but also what is going to feel good. What is going to feel really good as you walk out the particular decision to either join or not join an officiating company, or start running one or not start running a wedding officiating company. And maybe some of you have experiences in the chat. You can say, hey, I run one, or you can say, no, I had an opportunity to join, but I don't want to, or I'm worried about things that might hold me back if I do join, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So this can't all be caveats. I've got to get into actually talking about it with you, and I look forward to doing that. Like I said, I want to start with a little bit about my early experience. Saying hello still here to Lisa's joining from LMC Wedding, who is crushing it in our members only Facebook group. Lisa, I love the reviews you're getting. I've been so thrilled to see your journey. Sarah, good to see you. I have finally joined. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Bob is here from Austin. James from Georgia. And yes, wedding by Leo. Okay, so you have changed your handle here from from uh, from the rookie fisherman to weddings by Leo. Awesome. Like me, you have multiple Gmail accounts, and of course, the one that you're logged in will depend on what we see as your name. So good to see you here. I started officiating in the early 20 teens in my role of being a congregational minister. That was short lived, but I went to seminary and loved all the academic and intellectual side of kind of theology, which of course has a lot to do with my upbringing and my rebellion against that and my need to make my own journey. But part of the job of being a pastor is being a wedding officiant. I quickly learned that, when you're working a job as a congregational minister and somebody asks you to officiate their wedding, it's more work. So technically it's in your job description, but then you're like, oh man, I got to do this. I got to do this wedding. So I didn't love weddings. I asked some of my colleagues, and of course they told me how they did weddings, and it was your typical standard fare of like, everybody sits down, you do the wedding, hopefully it doesn't last too long, and off you go. Now, I got essentially headhunted by a company who in Canada here, really, really great company, young, hip, and married. And they asked me to, if I would like to join them. They were expanding into Toronto, where I lived, seeking to expand into Toronto, and asked me if I would come and work for them. And of course, my first reaction was, heck no. Why would I do such a terrible job? Why would I choose to, do weddings? Like, they're so boring and dry, and nobody really likes them. And I do it right now as part of a ministerial job. I was kind of on my way out of being a congregational pastor. I lasted 3 years in that role. But it was really this company and the owner who said, oh no, well, we like to do weddings really fun. We like to really be down to earth. We like to ask the couple questions about themselves and their story and incorporate that. And their whole branding was about kind of fun and cutting edge. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had never seen that. I had never officiated a wedding like that. I did not know what was possible. So really, it was that company that introduced me to even being aware that it could be fun. Now, I started. So then I started thinking, what is in it for me if I join this company? And of course, I wasn't aware at the time. This was around 2012, I would say. I wasn't aware at the time that I am entrepreneurial. Uh, I didn't know what that meant. And so, of course, when you get approached, hey, do you want to do weddings? I would have had no idea how to get clients outside of my own congregational circle. I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have had a clue how to do that. And so, of course, it was a no brainer early on to say, oh yeah, sure, you're going to get me clients, and they said, yeah, we will handle the booking, we will handle the payments. You don't need to know how to handle the payments, how to handle the money. You don't need to know how to get clients. We do all the marketing. So we are expanding into your market. We will make sure we are found by couples. Couples will reach out to you. We will say, yes, we have a great officiant named Mark, and we will set up the date. You can tell us your availability. We'll set up, everything will be kind of automated. We're doing all of that for you. And so that was an incredible deal. So I just want to pause here and say again, I fully understand if you don't have that kind of entrepreneurial bent, which I didn't know, that was like a dormant seed deep inside me that I would only discover around 2015, that the business of, and like I said, I use my wife as an example, who went out, got her counseling degree, came out into the real world, and then was like, I just want to do counseling. But like the work, I think of school teachers who like to teach. They become teachers to be classroom teachers, and like then they find out, oh my gosh, so much of this is not actually teaching, right? And so same thing for my wife, like the booking, the paperwork, you need the management skills, and you need to get an office and run an office and file taxes, and so all of that stuff is really difficult. And in my case, I did not want to think about that. I wouldn't have known how to do that. I wouldn't have been able to find myself, get out of a paper bag in that sense. And so I just said, well, yeah, sign me up. Now, as I worked for this company and they started sending me clients and I started honing the craft of really fun weddings, and that's when I started making a process for myself, things like the questionnaire, and this company was really open, thankfully. The questionnaire I found to be just way too much. I noticed things like, when I got to the part of the love story of how they met and the first date and the proposal, always got the biggest reactions. And some couples didn't give us anything on that because we didn't ask specific things like that. So I started to, actually, the company sent the questionnaire even to the couple. But I talked to the owner and I said, I don't love the questionnaire. I'm not asking you to change for the whole company, but can I send my own, or can you hone my questionnaire, just the one that you send to my couples? And yeah, they said, yeah, okay, that's great. And so I was able to, change the questionnaire to what I found got the biggest impact from the couples and the guests. And then, I started noticing another thing that was happening is I would officiate a wedding, and people would come up after and say, oh my gosh, whether it's guests or clients. And I'm telling you all this because if you've officiated a wedding, you know this feeling. And what happened to me, I believe, happens to anybody and everyone who is a really great officiant or celebrant. So if you're there, you know this story. And if you're not there yet, if you only officiated one or two or five, and you're considering, hey, I really like this, what should I do next? I'm telling you this again because I believe it's relevant for you. That's the only reason why I'm going into this level of detail. But I had people come up to me and say, oh my gosh, do you have a card? Whether it was for them, whether it was for a wedding planner or something. I've never seen such a great ceremony. And again, I keep interrupting myself. This is exactly what I teach in Unboring Wedding Academy. Look at the recent reviews from amazing people who officiated their first wedding. Just go to unboringwedding.com and scroll down. You'll see those live reviews. Our latest couple of reviews were all about how people said, you're the best officiant we've ever seen, like ever. How is it possible that it's your first time? So I'm super interested in, and I did it for myself first, in creating a very replicatable, predictable process and result. And that's, years later, I realized this is what I want to give to others. This gift that has happened to me, I want to share it with people, like so many of you in the chat. So they would ask me, do you have a card? And of course, I would give them the card that was given to me by the company. And sure enough, they would reach out to the company, and the company would book me with them. And that's great. So I was really starting to generate my own client base. And this to me is really key. Like I say, this really affects my view, my opinions around officiating companies in general and what needs to happen to make it work. So I'm going to talk to you about, like, if you're considering running one or joining one, this is the most important speed bump or hiccup that's going to happen, I believe, is that. So if you work for the company, people are going to start asking you for your card because you did so amazing and they're right in front of you. And again, Judith, I love how you started us off on what if you are allowed to take your own bookings? Fantastic. Okay. But the big thing, I don't want to say but, like it's a huge, the thing about working for an officiating company, of course, is they're going to charge the couple X amount, and they're going to give you a fraction of that amount. So I was fully aware that the company I worked for was charging couples $800 back in the 2014, 2015, and I was getting $400. And again, at the beginning, that was honky dory. I was thrilled with that because I did not know how to get my own clients, handle bookings. Do I need to get my own insurance? I did not know anything about small business. I'm an English lit major. Then I went to seminary and I learned ancient Hebrew and Greek, took some leadership stuff, became a congregational minister. I did not know I wasn't wired this way. I didn't know I was wired this way. And so this was great. However, that is literally the cost of all the benefits that come with a wedding officiant company. They're going to take a portion of what you earn on that wedding. And remember, you're doing most of the work. So at the beginning, I was happy to be sent clients by the company. But very quickly, I realized I'm generating my own business for myself. They would call the company and say, we want Mark for our wedding. And of course, they would say, that's fantastic. We'll put you in touch with Mark. And they did all the things. But this is around the time when I reached out to the owner and I said, okay, I'm loving this. This is going really well for both of us. However, I am very aware that I'm generating my own clients now and you're getting 50%. And what I needed you for at the beginning, generating clients, accepting payments and doing the bookings and all that stuff, as I look into it more, I think I can do that for myself. I think I can get a Google My Business profile. I think I can get a website. I can get my own business card and hand it out directly to people after a wedding. I'm getting to know the wedding planners and the venue owners, and they want me to be, their referral, their preferred officiant. And so what we were starting to talk about was some sort of, and it didn't come to be quickly enough for me. So one day I just called up and I said, I'm leaving. We kind of broke up. Amicable terms, but it was difficult, mutually difficult, because of course I said, I owe you so much. I owe you my start. I owe you the awareness that weddings can be fun. On the other hand, I've honed my own system. I have my own process that I believe, we kind of worked out together. And at the same time, I don't feel like the 50% fee that I pay is worth all the things that I can do myself. Around this same time, Stripe and Square and, whatever, what Shopify, and I know a lot of you do like Venmo in the States. We don't have that. And I would recommend, something professional like PayPal or whatever, but all those tools are becoming super user friendly around the same time. And, all kinds of tools. We're kind of democratizing business. And so we had a difficult conversation where I said, like, what I recommended before we broke up, and like I said, what we were talking about, but it didn't happen quickly enough, was a sort of off ramp. I said, in order for this to work, and this is, remember, I referred to the speed bump a few minutes ago. The speed bump that I think is going to come up, whether you join a wedding officiant company or run a wedding officiant company, that you need to think about, that you need to build in, I believe. If I were to start a wedding officiant company, which I've decided not to do because of my wiring and my values, and I will talk about those in a few minutes, what I would do is I would have to, just practically, but also because of how I like to launch people, there would have to be some sort of graduated stepping system of giving the officiant slash employee, the person who works for the company. If I ran it, again, if you are in it or if you run it, to me, the only way that it works, the only way it can work, the only way somebody can be happy at it for years and years and years of giving a portion of their fee away to the company, and the company is saying, we're taking this because here's what we provide. Well, as the officiant gets out there in a location, some local area, and officiates more and more and more and generates their own business gets better and better and better and has all these personal connections out there, the only way to make it work, and as Judith said, maybe the company can do this for many, but it is to kind of step down. So at the beginning, like, have a graduated taking less and less of the fee. At the beginning, the company charged me 50%. I would say year 2, or maybe a number of weddings. The first 10 weddings, we take 50% or 20. The second step, whether that is year 2 or starting at wedding 21, you get to keep officiant, you get to keep 60%, and we get to keep 40%. And then I would have a third tier. I would basically have a 4 to 5 year off ramp plan, because I think this is going to happen anyway. And I've talked to people who run companies, they're friends of mine. So I'm not opposed to officiating companies, but the challenges of running a wedding officiant company are recruiting officiants and celebrants who are okay with giving up so much of their fee, but then also retaining them because of this issue. I believe the officiant gets out there and gets so many connections because officiating is so relational. And every time you do it, you are the most public vendor, I would say. The planner's running around behind the scenes, gets to know the wedding party and the family really well, but the guests often don't see them at all. The venue owner is often in the periphery of the day, running around making sure everything's perfect. Now, you do have the photographer, but they're not actually seeing the pictures, right? No one is actually seeing the photographer's result right there in real time. So you are the most public vendor as the wedding officiant, whose work is on display for everyone to see. 100 people, 200 people, 300 people. And by virtue of that, you are doing marketing when you do the job, right? You're actually spreading the word about yourself in real time as you do the work, which means you are going to start generating your own business. And the wedding officiant company, and I'm imagining myself as somebody running a company like that. I know that it's going to be harder and harder to retain you, that great officiant doing that work, and also justify the amount that I'm taking from you. Because I do believe at the beginning, like I say, if a wedding officiant company has all the SEO and has a huge uh, couples coming to them and saying, we want to get married, we need an officiant, we need an officiant, and there's 10 or 12 leads a week or something like that, well, then they might say, yeah, we need officiants to fill these spots. And then you will have, of course, other officiants like I was at the beginning who want to do it, but are like, hello, I'm over here. Can I get found, please? And you can't find clients. So early on, it could be a match made in heaven. A really busy officiant who has found a way to generate lots of leads and can't fill them all can find an officiant who wants to do the work and is happy giving away, in my case, $400 for the privilege of what the company does that I can't do. But that problem is going to go away very quickly as the officiant gets out there and actually does the work. Okay. So this to me is an argument for a wedding officiant company thinking through down the line what is going to happen. And this is where, personally, I don't feel like the company that I worked for was foreseeing that problem, especially as they looked at somebody like me who is getting entrepreneurial, ringing the bell a little bit, saying, hey, I'm not really happy with the 50%. It kind of got put off and that kind of thing. And I've seen many officiating companies struggle with this same problem. It is hard for wedding officiant companies to really grow very large. And I don't know that it will ever happen because either A, they were going to stay the course and just charge their officiants, say 50% forever, no change. You're just going to get fit. That's the arrangement. Well, that officiant, like me, is going to say, I need to leave. And it's going to be under kind of like, I'm sorry, the value you're providing doesn't match what I need. What I need isn't what you're giving, et cetera, et cetera. And you kind of break up. So there's going to be that. Or I think best case scenario, now Judith, there is an alternative, but I think B, the best case scenario is still off-ramping your officiants who are excellent, your rock star officiants who are working for you. They're getting those bookings, they're going out there, they're crushing it. And then let's say you said, okay, we're gonna take 30, we're gonna take 50%, your first X level, and then 40, and then 30, and then 20, and then 10. Let's say that happens 5 years later, but at a point where this officiant has a huge Rolodex, knows everybody in the city, and now they're only asking, you're only you're only taking 10% of their fee. At a certain point, as the wedding officiant company manager, the owner, you're going to say like, okay, now you can fully leave if you would like. Now, here's where some companies get really draconian. And that is this, and this is something for you to think about if you want to join a wedding officiating company, is they will, as part of your contract with them, they will ask you to sign a non-compete. Of course, there's non-disclosure where you can't use our scripts and you can't use our this and you can't use our that. And the company feels as a proprietary, this is what makes us us, and you can't take our stuff and sneak it out the door and sell it out back, like those spy movies you see of East and West Berlin. So that I get that, the same way in my course, I say you can't give your logins out there on the internet to everybody. We will see that. We will shut it down. There is part of, hey, I've built this thing and I want it to stay in-house. I want it to stay uniquely me, uniquely us. But the non-compete clause, which now we can start talking about whether or not they're enforceable in court. We can talk about that. We're not going to. But they often will say, and you'll look at this when you sign the contract, that when you leave this officiant company for a period of a year or two, you are not permitted to conduct weddings in their market, and they will establish a geographical location or a distance location from their center office or that kind of thing. And here's the other kicker, they will actually forbid you from using reviews that you generated within the company, photos that you generated within the company, ceremony scripts and stories that you wrote and crafted while you were working for the company. And so you will, let's say you get to that point like I did, Thankfully, I signed nothing of the sort. The company was new enough that they never asked me to sign anything like that. And if they had, it would have been very difficult. So I feel like I dodged a bullet. And because of things like what I decided to and what happened to me, I know wedding officiant companies really make sure to cross their T's and dot their I's and make sure all their officiants sign this non-compete contract that in the case where you leave our company, you may not officiate anywhere in the city of whatever, Chicago, Florida, let's say, the Tampa area, wherever you are, for the period of 1 to 2 years, and you may not use personally for your own business or benefit reviews, scripting, photos, etc. So essentially, when you leave and make that breakup decision, you are out on your own, starting over. Now, you won't truly be starting over, and this is why I was confident. I said, I'm going to start something called Unboring Wedding. And I know that not only, by getting a Google My Business and all the kind of stuff I'm learning about online presence and launching a business, and now, Instagram and Facebook, they weren't only in their infancy back then in terms of generating content and producing things, making TikTok videos and things like that. There's ways that you can get found and seen now. But what I knew I did have was my Rolodex. And so when I left the company, I did call. And again, if I had signed some sort of non-compete that said I'm not allowed to officiate in the GTA, I wouldn't have been able to do this. But I called all the planners I knew. I emailed them and said, hey, just so you know, I've been working for this company, as you know, and you would reach out to them or refer to them. Well, I'm on my own now, and it's Unboring Wedding, and I would really love, you to send your clients my way. You've seen my work. Here's how I'm going to deal with the clients. And I would say the process, I'm going to have a chem check. And if you're an Unboring Wedding Academy, this is all the stuff that I started doing for myself back in early 2017 when I decided to go out on my own. And overnight, I remember having a discussion with the owner of the company, who is my friend still to this day. And he said, it's really tough out there. You're probably going to have a really hard time competing with our lead engine, etc. We dominate the market in terms of SEO. Couples call us all the time needing officiants. Interestingly, the company has struggled back then to recruit officiants, to get the officiants that they needed to fulfill demand. And so I was a case of, I said, well, I'll take my chances. And it was all the word of mouth that overnight I had all the work that I wanted, literally. Like I could not book enough weddings. 2017, I was super busy. 2018, and that's when I launched the course and said, this is so popular. I want everyone to know how to do this. That leads to now, Mark, why didn't you, sitting in Toronto, decide to start your own officiant company? Well, the answer is everything I just told you. So if you thought that would be another huge part of this discussion, you already know the answer. Okay, so again, there are going to be some caveats, like Judith said. Perhaps if you're running a wedding officiant company, like I said, I would recommend off-ramping officiants. But that, people who run companies, they don't like the idea of training somebody up, giving them everything. And I owe a whole heck of a lot to Young, Hip, and Married. I'm thankful for that experience, and to the wonderful owners who, like I said, are friends. But there was that sense of like, this isn't meeting my need. Okay. And you're going to hit that if you start a wedding officiating company. You may have some people who work for you, and I've talked to friends who own companies like this. They do have people working for them who are more than happy to not do any of the business side. Which, like I said, when I think about my wife, and she just really didn't like running her own business. She's not entrepreneurial. We've joked. I say to her, I look at you and what you do, kind of working a salaried job as a public servant now, and that's like my nightmare. She says, well, I look at you at what you do, and that's my nightmare. So great, high five. We're living each other's nightmare and absolutely loving it. And this is where I say you'll do what's right for you. But it was really, there were many people who are happy in the counseling world to work for a counseling agency, and they know the agency is charging the client $150, but they're only getting 70. And the company says, it's because we're going to pay for your insurance. We're going to set up the bookings. We just send you a link. You just sit in front of your computer, open it, and you do counseling. And for a lot of counselors, they're like, I just want to do the counseling. I don't want to do the blah, blah, blah. But what if, and this is where I say, whether you are considering joining an officiating company or running an officiating company, the best advice I can give you is think 2 to 3 to 5 years in the future. Okay, and I've talked about this book before, Pat Flynn, Will It Fly, a little book that it changed my life when I was considering becoming, I got an offer in Toronto to have a radio show, to be kind of a drive home 3-hour conversation host. It was based on my theological background and a podcast that I had at the time, and syndicating me. And that was I was like, oh my gosh, I can be on the radio every day, 5 days a week during the drive home on the biggest kind of spiritual talk show. But it was the Will It Fly book that made me sit down and go, okay, and Pat Flynn's exercises. What does this look like? This looks like driving to, Oakville every day at around 2 and getting ready to be on the air from 3 to 6, and then getting home around 8, and having to drum up the shows and all that. But also, I don't want to just continue to interview people. I had to interview people who are doing amazing things, and authors and heads of nonprofits. And I want to start doing that kind of stuff for myself. Now, if I hadn't sat down and done that exercise, who knows? I would have taken the job because it was flattering and it was the best offer at the time and it was great, but I don't think I would have liked my life. And so I made the other turn of saying, well, what if I start an officiating company? But then I thought of all the challenges that I just laid out for you and said, I will have to off-ramp people. I would have to do that. So what's another way to do what I love doing where I am naturally off-ramping people? I get to teach, I get to build community, and that is Unboring Wedding. Okay. A lot of you who are part of this community know and understand that. And to this day, I'm not interested in just selling a course, like a wham bam. Here's the course. I don't know. Most people, and I've bought online courses, I never expect to hear from the founder. I certainly don't get offered to, do coaching with the founder. I certainly don't get a personal welcome from the founder, but I wanted to be a part of the journeys, celebrate the successes, continue to give my advice, and also see people. I just mentioned Lisa earlier. She's doing this work. And Scott, who just purchased the pro course, he's doing this work. This is how I'm wired, and these are my values. I don't want to take money for work that somebody else is doing unless I'm offering real value, which fledgling early on, that is a great marriage. As I said, an officiating company and a brand new officiant who doesn't know what to do. But very soon they're going to get very competent, and then they're going to get very proficient, and then they're going to start thinking, I don't think I need to work for this company anymore. And if you got your officiant or celebrant hat on and you're working in that situation and you think 2 years now, 3 years now, wait, but I signed a non-compete. And if I start out alone, I got to wait a year or 2 as defined by the non-compete. And I'm starting all over. I can't use any reviews. I can't use any photos. I can't use any scripting as examples. You're basically like a newborn. And so you got to decide, it's not just the trade-off of money, it's the trade-off of time, the time that you will spend working for this company and cutting your teeth and getting real acumen, honing your game as an officiant. It will essentially all be almost literally for nothing if you leave the company, if they have that kind of non-compete, and you are forced to start out on your own. Now, there are other ways, as opposed to like just the step system, like I say, to off-ramp people, where, and this is what's interesting, what Judith proposed. The company might say, you can take your own bookings. You're not committed to only taking our bookings. I would say that's a rare animal, but good on that company if they're doing that. I'm trying to imagine if I were to start that and putting that hat on, if I were in Toronto, I'm in New Brunswick now, but, okay. I tell my officiants that they can take their own bookings, but also take bookings through me. And of course, I'm going to take a fee. Well, as that officiant, I'm trying to imagine, if they decide to charge their own clients $800 and I'm charging $800, but taking 400 or then taking 300, they're still taking home way less of the fee that gets charged to the couple, right? And so I still think that that's going to be in their mouth. Like, they're going to prioritize their own bookings, especially as they become more proficient. If they're proficient handling bookings and giving the contracts and stuff like that, everything that I teach in my pro course, because as again, for me, my values, my wiring, I like to just launch people and say, go out and find all the success you can. I'm a launcher, not a manager, okay, of people. That's just what I prefer. But I just see, again, this is the challenge to me of growing any kind of large officiating company. Either people are quitting and starting their own thing, maybe even despite a very draconian non-compete, or you're graduating them out. You're over a number of time, you're sending them on their own. But either way, you are going to have a hard time, keeping people in your grasp. That's what I believe. Now, anybody have any objections to that or questions about that? Again, this is my perspective. I want you to do what's right for you. There's often wedding officiating companies who will give you what you need and what is right for you. So I keep emphasizing, like, counselors, therapists who don't want to run their own business. They couldn't be bothered. All they want to do is do the counseling part. That's great. But again, counseling is not a public, it's definitely not. You're not doing counsel. It's not Dr. Phil. This worked out great for Dr. Phil being on TV every week doing counseling. I'm sure he had no end of clients. But it's similar for wedding officiants. We are doing our job so publicly, getting people to fall in love with our services and what we provide and the experience. Very quickly, officiant celebrant, you're going to not need what a wedding officiant company offers. That's why I'm a fan of associations like the IAPWO or the Canadian Wedding Officiants Association. You want colleagues. And this goes to referrals as well. You could say, well, companies also allow, you to cancel and they'll put in another officiant. You absolutely, if you're out on your own, you need a network of officiants. So I love the idea of networking with officiants. That's another reason why I would recommend never ask for a fee for referrals. This is, I'm going to recommend that you never. I know it sounds a bit strong, but also like I'm covering my bases a bit. But I've been asked this before. Do you charge someone to refer? Because, I get tons of bookings. I only take one wedding per Saturday. And so, of course, the second I get a referral, I can say, nope, I don't. I'm just not available. Or I can say, no, I'm not available, but, and I can think, oh, my officiating colleague would love this lead. And a lot of people then say, hey, they ask for a $50 or $100 referral fee. In my opinion, the positive regard I'm going to build up in the officiant community around me far outweighs, if I refer for free, that positive regard far outweighs any $50 or $100 I would get, like a free fish and chip dinner for my family. Uh, I really, really love saying, you know what, I'm booked, but here's the top 2 or 3 colleagues of mine who I recommend. Just put it in your email. I'm booked, but check out these other great colleagues of mine. And you tell your colleagues, like, you know what, every time I get a booking and I'm booked, every time I get a request and I'm booked, I just refer you because you're so excellent. They'll do the same for you. It's reciprocal. And then also, again, when you develop colleagues like that, when you desperately need someone to fill in for you because you're sick or something, they will often be there for you and vice versa. So officiants do need a network. And that's something that, again, early on, when you don't have that, a wedding officiant company can and will provide that. If you say, I'm sick, I can't do it, OMG, this is terrible, The wedding officiant company can say, well, we've got 6 or 8 officiants on our bench. We'll get somebody to fill in. So I want to be clear here, there are many benefits, whether it's providing insurance, although in the US, I don't know much about that. The tax stuff is probably a lot easier. Although I would say when I went out on my own and started my own business and started enjoying tax, write-offs and things like that. And then, of course, I've become incorporated since, which has a huge number of tax benefits. It's more work to go out on your own and start your own business. But then, of course, there is a ton of benefit. You're always trading off one thing for another. So when I said, joining or running an officiating company, pros and cons, I hope you really get a sense of the constant trade-off that is happening between the two things. You're going to get this, but the drawback is this. And that's true for so many things, but I want you to think about it in terms of 2 to 3 to 5 years from now. What's going on in the agreement or the arrangement that you have now? Is it the same? Has it changed? Do you foresee your desires, your needs changing in the sense of, I don't need a pipeline of referrals anymore because everyone is going to be asking for me by name? Will I still be happy even if a company says, yeah, you can work for us or you can take your own? Well, will I be happy doing some weddings for $300 and other weddings for $800 and it's no different? Again, maybe you can say, I'll work for a company and only take elopements or something like that. That's great. That's why I say you want to be creative about figuring out what works for you and how you're going to feel years from now under the current arrangement. Now, I'd love to hear some more questions about this if you've got them. If not, I will rest my case. Again, I hope I didn't sound like I was making a case, but I personally have a hard time seeing how it's rewarding for the company and the officiant on an ongoing kind of endless basis. Endless. You know what I mean? Like very long term, 5 years, 10 years. I don't think anybody starts like working somewhere and says like, in 5 years, I hope to be out of here, or I'll probably be out of here. So that's one thing that really complicates this arrangement specifically for wedding officiants. I started this conversation by using the law firm analogy. Well, a lawyer will ultimately try to work up to partner, where they're expanding the law firm even more and commanding more fees and diversifying the law practice and getting more associates, etc. Counseling, again, many people they're happy to just practice their trade and they don't know how to get clients. Although word of mouth does start to trickle in as people refer, I've got a great counselor, XYZ, but a lot of time counseling is confidential. And so, you definitely can't say, I counseled Jim and Karen and I really helped their marriage. You're not allowed to say that. and Jim and Karen probably won't disclose that they're your clients. So that's where what we do is unique in this kind of arrangement. You're standing up literally on a platform in many cases, doing what you do in front of 200 people. And even if there's just one planner, that one planner is worth dozens of weddings any given season. And if you ace it, which everybody in Unboring Wedding Academy does, they'll ask for you by name. Okay. So hopefully you get it. I don't want to beat that crass saying. I don't want to overdo it here. Scott says, what you're saying about the difficulties related to the directive increasing experience gained while working with the company resonates 100% with my experience working with small businesses. That's fascinating. I'd love to know more specifics about how, like I say, I'm drawing certain analogies of service-based businesses because that's what an officiating company is. But yeah, a lot of time when a business says, well, we are going to take practitioners and turn them into employees, that can work. I just think of like a plumbing company or electricians. There are electricians driving around my town with their own names on the side of their van. And then there's larger companies who have a bunch of electricians working for them. So there's a lot of parallels. You've just got to decide what your trade-off is. And I think, a lot of companies, a person will maybe get a higher salary. The company, like let's say electricians, will start increasing their rates on customers, and there will be a graduated salary system. It's a little bit different though, because wedding officiants, like companies, they don't typically charge by the hour the way people in the trades would. It's really just per wedding. So there does still need to be that, like I say, that graduated sense of you take more, I take less. We're dealing with really lump transactions. Wedding couple gives company $800 or $1,000. You get a cut of that, right? So that's where there are parallels, but it's also a bit trickier and more challenging, and I'd say less rewarding for both parties as time goes on and as the officiant gets more competent and I would say proficient. Unfortunately for us in Ontario, it's very tricky to go out on our own. Yes, I do understand that. And that's not why I moved to New Brunswick, because it's similar here. Thankfully, I am a member of a very progressive little church that that considers marrying people part of what we do. And so you have to be a member of a denomination. That's where, like, I know the metaphysical association. I always recommend people, and there are people in the Unboring Wedding community who have taken people in to do that kind of thing. But it is tricky in certain jurisdictions. So again, difficulty is baked into this one way or another. It'll be either easy what the company provides for you, but difficult giving away part of the fee, or difficult starting your own business. But again, when you think, for me, 2 years from now, I may be in the same place with a company. And in fact, if I want to leave, I can't because of this non-compete. Whereas 2 years from now, I may still be building my own business, but every single wedding I've done has been building my own Rolodex. I know it's an ancient expression. My own contact list in my app, my own photos, my own reviews, my own, that kind of thing. So take the long view, whatever you decide, and figure out, is this working for me? Leo said, I had a wedding company reach out, but their pay didn't cover the drive. So yeah, you have to think. So obviously that again is like the flat fee. We're going to pay you this amount. Does it include travel? Does it include insurance if something happens on site? Do you cover that? Am I an employee? That's why I can't get into the specifics if you're in Australia, if you're in the States, if you're in Canada, if you're in England, about like coverage of different things. But find out your liabilities, whether that's travel, whether that's insurance, whether that's the price of gas, whether that's, like for me, again, recently I decided I'm only going to officiate weddings 20-minute radius from my house. That's just what I decided. I said, there's enough venues here that I will book those. And even if I would book more weddings by driving an hour away, because St. John, tons of weddings, great. I have a great network of vendor friends out there who are like, no, please keep coming to St. John. But I just think with the rehearsal and everything else, like I just want to spend more time with family and building something like Efficiently. It's all everything is trade-off. And I want to think about 2026, 27, 28. How am I doing? Am I liking my life? Will it fly? Is this flying for me? That's the best advice I can give. Ultimately, you're going to do what's best for you. Please remember that. Sabrina says, I've got backup from others in the Unboring Wedding community for that. Oops, I'm already booked. But that is amazing that inside the community, you are actually referring people. I absolutely love that. We do have a directory where you can take a look and see if there's anybody near me. That's in the Facebook group right at the top. It's a kind of untended spreadsheet. But also, I know many of you pop in here and talk to each other and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm right near you as well." So that's pretty great. Leo says, "I'm looking for an officiant in my area who I can give my overflow to." See, that's absolutely fantastic. That's when you know. And Leo, just like Lisa, watching you grow as a wedding officiant and get so booked out, that has been such an absolute joy for me. And I love that I am not taking any money from you. That really is important for me. Now, something like Efficiently, for example, which requires update and upkeep and space on a server and sleepless nights, as Mike Delaney will attest to, as we kind of have tested this software. That I feel is worth it. Like, what efficiently it saves hours, it automates the process. That's where an annual licensing fee, like many, softwares, whether it's Microsoft 365 or a premium version of ChatGPT or that kind of thing, like software subscription models. I've even heard like the heated seats in BMWs are subscription now or something like that. That's where I'm providing something. But just taking a fee for Leo's wild success now on an ongoing basis, that doesn't make sense to me. I only want to be taking money from you if I'm giving you something that you absolutely need. Sabrina says, there are those that just want a side gig. Yep. Don't want to deal with paperwork, marketing, taxes. Those are the ones that may join and stay with an officiating company. That is 100% a good summary of what I said. So if you're new, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do any of that. I absolutely want to do that. Maybe you want to continue to just have a side gig and not worry about that at all. That's great. And I know many officiants. I had many minister friends in Toronto that worked for a huge company, and even the level of quality wasn't a concern for the company. They just said, officiate this wedding, go to it. We're going to pay you when it's done. And that's it. It was very transactional. And so I had many friends who are happy to make an extra $350 on a Saturday. It was not kind of the level of quality and service that I recommend in Unboring Wedding Academy and what works for me. It was just very like, I'm going to show up, I'll do your wedding. And if many people are happy with that, that's where I'm saying, I had an analogy years ago, like the boxed wine market is humongous. People buy boxed wine at 7-Eleven that other people who, spend $50 to $100 a bottle of wine would never even touch or look at, and vice versa. So there is a market for all different kinds of couples, officiants, companies. It's all out there. I just want you to not feel trapped or boxed in by any of it. Always be looking at the long term in your future, and know what the trade-off is, what the cost is, and where you want to be a couple years from now, and how you think you're going to feel. Okay, so Leo says, I like it on my own. It takes time, but you'll grow. I have a lot to thank you for. Even after I bought the program, you still put out free, awesome info, so thank you. Yeah, like I said, that's my wiring. I'm not here to talk about myself, although I do hope my story helps in that sense of like, what it was like to feel like I had outgrown the company and realizing, my gosh, people are asking for me by name, and oh my goodness, thank goodness there wasn't a non-compete in the contract because I would have been really, really in trouble. Those are all things you've got to think through. Friends, it has been an hour. I will see you next week. I do want to say I am really excited for next week because we're going to try something completely different. I will have a guest. I will be interviewing. I'm not going to say who. So you're going to have to stay tuned for next week. But it's going to be really exciting. And I'm going to start. We're trying this out, but I'm going to mix in. It's time for me. Speaking of change and it's time for me to ask people to come on here and have really fun conversations with other wedding officiants, because I want you to learn from them and their experience as well. So the same way I talked about myself, my experiences, I have a very particular point of view. Hopefully it's open enough for you to say, well, I don't necessarily agree, but I learned from that. I think it's similar, where I'm looking forward next week to having a chat with a wedding officiant guest from our community. And that's as far as I'm going to go with it. So it's going to be absolutely fun. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. I look forward to next week. And in the meantime, marry on and have a great weekend wherever you are. Thanks, everybody.